Coach for the Gainesville Red Elephants, Bruce Miller, is with us today. And Coach Miller, thank you so much for being in studio with us.
Well, thank y'all for having me. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. Coach, you're coming off a 10-2 season last year, second round of the playoffs. What are you going to remember about last season? I mean, you had so many players from last year's team that I know are just going to stay in your head for years to come. Starting with a guy like A.J. Johnson, Thomas Niles, but on down, you had a pretty classic group of seniors coming in last year.
We sure did. We had a group of kids that a lot of them had played since about since they were 8 years old together. And in fact, I think after we won the region championship, they took a picture of them all together, and it was like 16 or 17 of them that had been playing together. And it was a lot of fun to watch that group because going into the season, the expectations were not very high since we'd lost so many kids the year before, and that group just seemed to improve week in and week out. And, that was kind of our goal last year. Where did we improve this game? And you could almost see that group improving each week. And, I really feel like we got upset in the last game against Cedar Grove. We didn't play very well, and we had several things go against us. Of course, Cedar Grove could have had a lot to do with that. But it was really a fun year with that group of kids.
I know, Coach, obviously you talk about the seniors from last year. This year's team going to be a little bit different. Obviously, every team's different, but one of your better players is going to be a young kid. I mean, he's still a young kid, even though he's a veteran in your sophomore quarterback, Deshaun Watson. Talk a little bit about what he brings to the team and how he's improved through the offseason.
Well, I think Deshaun has stepped up his game another step, maybe 2 steps. He has really become a lot more refined as a quarterback. He's a very intelligent kid. He's a very good kid. And he has kind of taken the challenge that I want to be better my sophomore year than I was my freshman year. I don't want to be a freshman sensation. He wants to be very consistent. And he's kind of put the team on his back, and he's got a little bit more leadership ability. Of course, how do you lead as a freshman? But he's kind of stepped up his game and really done a good job this summer.
Yeah, I think you do have a lot of talent on offense, and I'm sure you have talents on defense too. Is that a little more the concern coming into the year? I know you're head coach, so you're concerned about everything, but you did lose a lot of starters off last year's defensive squad. Is that kind of going into the season one of the worries for you?
Well, I don't know if it's a worry, but it's a very big concern because we lost 9 starters,
right? And
you lose A.J. Johnson, who had played for so long. For some people, thought he was never going to graduate because he'd been with us. AJ had been with us 4 years, but some coaches told me I think he's been there about 8 years.
That's right.
And
they were miserable. The other coaches were like, man,
I'm glad they were miserable, but now we're miserable.
That's right.
Because AJ's gone. But I think as a unit they will gel. We had our first live scrimmage yesterday in practice, and they give us all we could handle. We went ones-on-ones, and they give us every bit we could handle in practice. So as long as Coach Pavo's over there and got them running around, being excited, they'll be tough to handle.
I know, obviously, you talk about for a season to come together. There's so many intangibles, things that just have to happen. Talk a little bit about just the leadership qualities that you look for, in players and a team, and how everything kind of has to come together for you to have another big season.
Well, that's the thing that, you were talking about earlier, last year's team, how it came together. It's like a bunch of those seniors last year kind of took it upon themselves, and not just A.J. and Thomas, but I name about all of them. They just kind of took it upon themselves that they were not going to lose. After the Buford game, they kind of said, look, this is not going to happen again, and they just kind of came together, and it was amazing to watch them blend together and have that team chemistry. How's that happen? If I knew exactly how it could happen, I could be a rich man. But it's a lot of caring for each other. It's a lot of work together, and it's a lot of just kind of pitching in and saying, look, I'm going to cover my brother's back. And I think that's one of the things our kids have to get to the point that there's a lot of camaraderie, and hopefully that'll all come together.
Do you feel like you've built the program to where it is now? Because you mentioned those guys have been playing together since they were in 8th grade. That seems to be how a high school team kind of builds a program now. These guys, they start at a young age and kind of work their way up. I mean, are you happy with where the whole system is as far as Gainesville's concerned?
Well, I'm never happy.
Right. Again, you're a head coach.
I'm never happy because my expectations are always a little higher. My goal would be to be back in the state championship every year. We've got some very, very good high school football players right now. And some of them will have a chance to play at the next level. It'd be anxious to see how our senior class brings everything together. We do have some leadership in our lower classes that I think will exhibit itself. We've got a kid named Fred Payne, who's one of our defensive backs, who just has got an incredible leadership ability. And I think as long as Fred and a kid named Keontre Harrison, a couple of those kids come around for us, I think we could be okay.
Excellent.
This season, obviously, a tough early matchup with Buford. There's no breaks on the schedule, though. I mean, there never is really playing up here. Just talk about, kind of what you see on the schedule and kind of your expectations.
Well, we open up with Buford, which is, and I'm trying to get our kids to understand this is a great opportunity. Buford's supposed to have one of the best teams it's had. One of the better teams they've had in a long time. I don't know how you say that when they won 3 state championships.
Exactly.
But I told somebody said Buford may have the best team to have. I said, well, I'm sure glad I'm going to get to see it. I tell our kids this is what an opportunity. Some kids play their whole high school career and don't play in a game like this. Well, we'll go in there as a chance to really measure ourselves against a quality opponent. And a chance to play in a big game early to kind of get that big game feeling out of us. And then the other thing is, just being in that setting. And then we play White County after that. I do not know a whole lot about White County. I know they lost a bunch of kids last year. They got a new head coach. Then we take a week off, and then we come back with North Hall. Which
it's always a big game.
Which is always a big game.
Yeah.
It don't matter. It don't matter what our records are. It's going to be a big game, and then then we go to Franklin County. And Franklin County, I'm predicting to be the dark horse in our region this year. They've got about all of them back they had last year. They played us like crazy the first half last year, and only did late in the fourth quarter did we bust it open. And I think us going up there, that's the longest road trip we have to make. I think there's a lot we'll be able to tell about ourselves up there, and then we come back and hit our sub-region schedule, and it's pretty much on then.
Yeah, it is on then. Yeah. It's worked well for you. Coach, really appreciate your time. Good luck this season.
Hey, thanks, guys, for having me.
Thank you.